The one thing that the Western gaming industry has been exceptionally good at in recent years is obfuscating and deflecting criticism for their waning quality. They will blame everything but themselves for the collapse of the industry. Because you got Starfield's lead quest designer claiming a large portion of gamers are fatigued with 30-hour plus long games. Well, if you add enough weasel words to it, eventually your claim will make sense, but I totally and completely disagree with this, because you take a look at the games that people are still playing right now, they are enormous titles, okay? We've long since reached maturity on the days of the MMORPGs, I understand, but even those free-to-play games that are out there, how many hundreds of hours of people are clocking in on those, okay? How many big sprawling RPGs that come out that require dozens of hours to complete the main game, let alone the dozens of hours on top of that if you want to experience all of the side content? How many of those consistently come out and then stay in people's rotation for months on end? No. A large majority of gamers don't want long games anymore. How about you make it an engaging game, and especially cute coming out of somebody who had anything to do with Starfield, blaming gamers' fatigue on an otherwise shit project. Starfield lead quest designer Will Shen, didn't he leave Bethesda? Who left Bethesda back in 2023. Sorry, OBS was covering up the rest of the article. It's like, he created a game that was so bad that he ended up leaving in disgrace. Recently claimed that a large portion of gamers are fatigued with 30-hour plus long games. In an interview with Kiwi Talks YouTube channel, Shen stated, "And now we're reaching a point where people are fatigued, or a large section of a growing section of the audience because fatigued at investing 30, 100 plus hours into a game because they've already had that." Yeah, because whenever you experience something that's super fun, and when somebody offers you more of that experience, they normally just turn it down because, you know what, bro, I have a hard 25-hour cap. Anything more than that, I just can't deal with it. Now, I understand, okay, as somebody who took a long time to come back to gaming for, I was burnt hard by not Assassin's Creed, well, by that too, it's diminishing quality over the years, but Mass Effect Andromeda, actually. I've told my story about that, how it just completely and totally turned me off gaming until, actually, it was Final Fantasy VII Remake I ended up playing once again. But yeah, the idea of just, oh my god, sitting down, playing a gigantic RPG, it can seem daunting, but those are people that aren't gamers, that aren't your core audience, that were never going to play your game to begin with. You have to make an enticing proposition, because like I said, there was the better part of 5 years where I just pieced out of gaming until there was something that I wanted to play that drugged me back. That was a 30, 50 hour experience. I have to go back and take a look what my original PS4 run of Remake was, but I can tell you what, in the past year, how many hours I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And here's the thing, in my first playthrough, oh my god, it was the only thing I could think about, and it's something that has definitely permeated my thoughts. But in recent months, playing like an hour or two a week, that's fine. You can just continue to chip along and play at it, even if you're on hard mode, where you're just basically going from boss to boss, and it's been fun as hell. I just haven't really had the time. But it's something you look forward to. It is a good game that grabs your attention. The way that he's perceiving games and, going at them and taking a look specifically. Yeah, the designer on Skyrim, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Starfield. Not exactly a sterling track record there, Will. But of those games that you've been a part of, here's the thing. Skyrim is still played to this very day. How many thousands of hours do people have clocked into that game that released in November of 2011? And why is it that people that are still affiliated or were affiliated with Bethesda continue to come out and go, yeah, don't get your hopes up for Elder Scrolls 6. It's going to be impossible to live up to those expectations. And oh yeah, gamers, it's just a change in perception. It's just a change in their taste. They don't want these big sprawling epics. They want things that are snappy. They just want to get in the game. They want to get out the game at their own leisure. But here's the thing. They get in, they get out, they play a couple of quests, they do a couple of things. Maybe they get set up on a weekend or on a day where they don't have a lot going on. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to sink my teeth into this. Okay. If you're playing a Western RPG, you create your character, or if you're playing an Eastern RPG, you get through the tutorial section with, whatever the anime protagonist that you have is. And then you get into the world, you get your feet wet so that, yeah, when you are done, your big 3, 4, 5, depending on how many hours in a day you can dedicate to that initial voyage into a game, then you can start to come back to it, and then you can chip away at it. There are some games, granted, and I can tell the story about Final Fantasy 12, at how I hated that game, and I got to the point where you could finally go to the final level, and it's like, I'm good. I didn't come back and eventually beat Final Fantasy 12 until years later, and I was still incredibly underwhelmed. Game sucks. But as somebody who is a lifelong RPG enthusiast, both from the East and from the West, it's been a bit of a dry spell, especially from the AAA industry, but you take a look at the indie space, yeah, there are huge games that are out there. Huge games. What was that? What was that one that came out in 2023? All right, Baldur's Gate 3. How well did that maintain its audience throughout the past year? Like, there's just so many examples, okay? This isn't a case of just pointing out the exception to disprove the rule. No. He's out there just spewing nonsense. There's no better way to put this. He explained, they already have the games that they will continue to come back to, and adding another game, and adding another one to the list is a tall order. It's always the tall order. So we're seeing this resurgence of short games. Where? Keeps on thinking that it's just this finite pie, that if you don't end up doing something great, people aren't going to gravitate towards it, or that you're just simply wasting your time and wasting your effort because the people, they just have their staples, they have their routines, but how did they become their routines and their staples to begin with? Did you ever think about that? Or no, there's so many slices to this pie, we can't bake another pie. People's attention, there's only so many hours in a day. Just what a defeatist attitude. I guess if you've been working at Bethesda for as long as they've been pumping out the shit that they have recently, I would understand not thinking like you're at the top of your game. Shen then pointed to mouthwashing. What? I just played mouthwashing. Oh, right, that's that game with the fan art and crap. It's only like 3 hours long at most, a very short experience. Yeah, this is an indie game. Okay, this is, one of those shitty pre-rendered background PS1 style, garbage indie slop titles. Ugh. But part of the benefit is that the community engagement around the story of mouthwashing is only possible because everyone who is a fan has actually played through it all the way to the end, and that's important for engagement with story and the product. Yeah, but once they hit like that 30 hours worth of discussion, they just don't want to engage with it anymore because they have other things to do, right? The mouthwashing is a huge hit because it's short. Bro, how many people are still playing this shit? Huge hit, right? Right? Yeah, no, a lot of people are talking about it. Massive hit. Just shut up, Will. Most games that are 10 plus hours long, most people don't finish, and I would say 75% of your players only play through the first 5 to 10 hours. So yeah, why put effort into anything? Because most of the people are just going to play for 5 to 10 hours. That's a huge fragmentation of your overall fan community base. Between the people that will play through it all the way to the end and play it again over and over again, the vast majority of that audience who will play it for the first 5 hours and then put it down and say, that was pretty good, and then move on to whatever's next, he added. On top of claiming players already have the games they will already go back to, Shen noted the reason he believes the fatigue is set in due to the success of games like Skyrim and Fallout. Alright, I was so good in my past, that means that, I don't really have to put any sort of effort ahead of me. That's why Starfield failed, because everybody was still playing all of our old games, right? Part of what happened was a success of games like Skyrim and Fallout 4. No, Nobody goes back and continues to play 4. They play 3. These are really big titles, and the original 2, okay? The real Fallout games. That you can play, and New Vegas, that play pretty much forever. And there's still a lot of people that play Skyrim, even after all these years. That's because you haven't given them a reason to play a different Elder Scrolls game. There are people that, still play Morrowind, still play Daggerfall, still, for whatever reason, play Oblivion. I think that they announced, or there was a teaser, or there was a rumor that they were going to do a remake of Oblivion for whatever reason. But no, they go to the most recent Elder Scrolls single-player experience because that's what people want to play, and you guys used to be pretty good at that, or at least you had the market cornered on it until everybody else started to do it better than you, and because you guys are just untalented hacks at Bethesda, you haven't been able to do anything worthwhile in how long now? And the idea that these evergreen games that you could just sink thousands of plus hours into, that hit the industry. Yeah, before it was MMOs that were that. World of Warcraft, there are World of Warcraft superfans that never leave the game. And then all of a sudden, games like Skyrim and other open world games really hit their stride with enough content to get past the tipping points. or tipping point, so you can almost play it forever, and so that became the big trend that hit the game industry. Yeah, you can see that with newer games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Yeah, exactly, and you're going to be able to see it too firsthand when GTA 6 comes out. So you keep telling me about all of these games that aren't supposed to be a success because they're too big and they're too all-encompassing, and then we need to have shorter games. But which shorter games are successes on the scale of these big sprawling epics? Yeah, Minecraft became super popular because you could dump hours upon hours into them. Like his conclusion makes no sense to me. I can understand the idea that, yeah, you want tighter, more, self-contained stories. I understand wanting that, but to try to drag down the big sprawling epic games just because you guys haven't created one in a very long time doesn't pass the smell test. How long will Fortnite go on? It could be for another 20, 30 years. Maybe it's forever. Sports games, have gone on forever. Football, soccer, basketball, it's been a long time since someone's introduced a new team sport and had a huge mainstream cultural influence. Well, the Tony Hawk games did for a minute until they tried to get way too gimmicky. So maybe forever, maybe in our lifetimes, 50 years from now, there'll still be Fortnite updates. It'll still be a mammoth success. It always has been. So yeah, realistically, this hack just seems butthurt that Starfield is totally and completely dead, buried, and in the ground, and it ended up costing you your comfy position over at Bethesda. Who knows, man? But I've heard a bunch of people talk about this, saying that, oh yeah, I'm disenchanted with, the big sprawling games. I just want, quick experiences. But then on the other hand, they'll go ahead and say, oh yeah, I remember dumping how many hours into Witcher 3, or I can't wait for GTA 6 to come around. Here's the thing. If a good game comes along and it's a 500-hour epic, if you're enticed by it, you're going to play it. If a fantastic game comes along and it's 5 hours, you're going to play it if you want to play it. Otherwise, tell a story worth telling. Focus on what used to make games great, because apparently coming out of the West, they're focused on everything except for the actual quality of a real fantastic video game. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.